Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below the video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to new Patreon, Banter, Philip Simon, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936. Just make sure I can actually see it all this today. Life is Short, Fireball X, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'll hand over to whoever is in Google and Discord so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Remember what Paul said about the Sabbath. One day esteem it one day above all others, and another man esteem it all days the same as others. Let every man be fully persuaded in their mind. So in other words, we don't go around telling others, if you esteem one day above others, telling others they should do the same and vice versa.
But he knows this scripture. This is what gets me crazy.
What about this scripture? Remember where the Lord said, go on.
Sorry to be a pain. Any chance you can drop and rejoin? Righteous, something wrong with your levels. You're just blasting out everybody. I can't do anything about it or turn you down. If you can drop and rejoin, it normally solves it.
Check.
Oh, that's much better. Thank God.
Okay.
I mean, thank Allah.
How you doing, Nathan?
Yeah, good.
I know you make these jokes, Nathan, but anyways, I was going to say, remember where the Lord, this is one that people need to understand about the Sabbath because they don't know how to rebuttal the Sabbath thing. Remember the Lord said about entering into his rest, right?
Who don't know how to rebuttal the Sabbath? Take it easy, buddy.
don't get feisty with each other.
Well, listen, let me get to it.
Everything.
Yeah, hold on, don't let him make his
the Lord
point.
Said,
guys, go on, Righteous.
The Lord said, it's in Hebrews, I think, what was it, Hebrews 4 or something like that, about entering to the Lord's rest, right? And the Israelites that were in the wilderness, they never ended up entering into his full rest.
Never entered.
So when you enter into his full rest, every day is a rest day, right?
He knows this, Righteous. This is what I'm saying.
He knows that too?
He knows
oh my goodness.
This, so
then
why do you go back?
The Lord's rest sounds like death. Are you sure that's not what they were talking about?
He knows
talking about what?
You've been sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good.
Who's this?
For goodness
All right, let's change it because they're going to make a mockery out of it. Let's get on to Flat Earth. Righteous, where's that biblical one? You said it's on Gem Pandas? Becky,
what's that?
When did they usually do it? I'll pop in over there one time.
I guess every Thursday. So that was yesterday. Yesterday was Thursday. So every Thursday around 8 Eastern or 7 Eastern.
Right. Cool. So what's going on with this this picture now? There's something new happened with it? I heard them talking about snow this morning.
There's more things you're not allowed to talk about, apparently.
Yeah, I heard that. I was on Gems real quick just to see what's going on. And somebody was telling Chemo about how it snows there in the summer. I don't know.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tent. How are you?
Good.
It
So what
snows there in the summer, therefore Earth is a globe. I like that connection.
kind of flaky.
You know, I caught you one yesterday. When I reheard it, I caught it. Which one did you say? Oh, it was a good one. Oh man, I can't believe I forgot it.
Yeah, if you, it's got to happen on the dime or forget it.
Yeah, you said something and nobody caught it. I was laughing. I was like, wow, nobody caught that.
Well, I had one the other day with Nathan, and I can't remember the context, but I came back with, yeah, that's a tall order, and the pun was
No, it wasn't
tall.
that one.
No, I know, but the pun was tall, and Nathan just rolled through it like nothing. You know, I said,
There was another one, the same thing like that. You said it sounds. Oh God, what the heck was it? I gotta re-listen. It was good. I said nobody caught that.
So anyway, yesterday I was able to, while you think of that, come and chat, Nathan, on your rebroadcast of that show towards the later part, I think. And is it Sean Hawkins who was commenting back and forth with you for a little bit there?
Yeah, he's got some nerve, that guy.
You recall that? Hello, Nathan.
Who are you asking?
What's that?
Making copy.
Who are you asking?
making-
Who are you asking?
You. Just asking you. Did you?
Yeah,
do you remember?
I think maybe next Tuesday. I think maybe. I don't know. I can't remember.
No, it was yesterday's show. My afternoon catching of it. Anyway, Sean Hawkins and you were going back and forth on something, and he was talking about divergent light rays are really parallel. And he goes and he can prove it. Just like I said, dude, just open your eyes and look at it. You're trying to tell me when they come in at funny angles that it's really parallel? I mean, I'd love to hear this argument. It's not even worth hearing. If someone could look at something coming in at a funny angle and say it's parallel, it's over right there with the brain cells.
Yeah, well, what they're saying, I don't see how he could come with that. But what they're saying, that Jem himself said, I'm just amazed at all the gatekeeping that's going on the other side with this picture, meaning us.
And the gatekeeping of not showing the whole picture from the beginning was done by what
This is what I
side?
said. I said, well, it's kind of funny. You're calling us gatekeepers of a picture, but we're only allowed to speak on a certain part of the picture. What's the problem here, Jem?
You went back over there, Neil?
Yeah, I pop in here and there. Listen, here's the thing. They're saying that everything else in that picture is irrelevant because you can't really make out anything anyway.
But you can see the horizon is way past the geometric limitations of a ball.
They don't want to
Yeah,
talk about that.
Yeah, about that black swan they've cropped out. That's what this boils down to.
Exactly. So funny to me.
I said the whole image is a black swan,
Yeah,
so it shouldn't really matter to Brian if he's debating about it and they're like, you can only use this bit. It's like, okay, well, what do you want? Got to use the cherry-picked image. It's outrageous, really. The amount of times they falsely claim we're cherry-picking because we've cited something, and then they'll go and get something and literally crop out the bit that devastates the globe and demand that we only look at the bit they've cropped.
Don't cherry pick. Only we can cherry pick.
But what else can they do if they want to defend the undefendable now? They got to do it, right?
I mean, as Brian's not here, you guys are all making these suggestions, so I don't mind echoing them. Obviously, it's his bag what he does. But you had some very good ideas that you shared with him. I hope some of them make their way into the discussion, which is to say, let's discuss what's being limited and censored from the audience. Let's get that out of the way first. And does it mean that you won't talk about them? If it were me, and it came up and the only rebuttal was something that was told to me to be off the table, I'd point that out, and then by pointing it out, I'm using it as a rebuttal. So
Correct.
it's kind of. Have you seen Ranty's diagram where he puts angular size change and orthographic view?
No, but I did read your comments on it.
Yeah, he's pretty much double dipping angular size change to make a false claim. Like you use orthographic to establish line of sight, and your line of sight and those angles that you can draw from your eye will give you your angular size change. But he's used it twice. It's to claim that the tower should be something it's not.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a new name for this. It's called Mongtrig, or to give it its full title, Cat's Mongtrig. Well, they can use their Mongtrig all they like. Now, in the case of Ranty Flat Earth, he's being deceptive. He sat through detailed explanations from Life is Short. I've mentioned this many times. I've put cards to it in the videos I've trimmed out. They're coming out all over this weekend. So, there's no other word for it. It's just a lie. He knows full well that is not how perspective is. And I said this last time, our feeble attempts to detail it over a 5-hour period, that's what we've got. And some could argue it's really comprehensive, but it's like, no, it isn't. We're scratching the surface. And it's good. It has scratched the surface. But by comparison, when you put that side by side with cats, it's toddler grade. It's just pathetic. But they're saying that's how the world is, according to flat earthers. Now, day 1, we identified that as a straw man. So now we're on day 10, or day 11. It's like, this is just your trig. You say that if the world was flat, this is how it would represent itself. Well, that's your claim now. It is just your trig, your claim, and how you feebly present a straw man that's already been pointed out for 10 days. So if they still want to retain the straw man, fine. The consensus cheering will be the only relief and consolation that you get when you claim victory. And that won't last. So, one of those things. I'm just gleefully happy that we've now got someone like Ruhif claiming to Anthony that 7/6 of a radius value, what is most definitely geometric-based terrestrial refraction, is perspective. That's what he's saying to Anthony. Well, that's perspective. No, it definitely isn't. It's not even your linear perspective that doesn't apply to the top of the mountains further than the bottom, Ruhif. Yeah, it doesn't even apply that. But nevertheless, he hasn't even got the linear perspective in the curve maths. It doesn't say linear perspective 7/6 of a radius. That's totally nonsensical. But that's what he's literally claiming. Now, you might say, well, that's outrageous. No, it's good. Because what it means is Ruhif now recognises perspective's real and is telling us how to do perspective with their Mong trig. Okay. So you recognise that shit shrinks? Good. It's not in the curve maths. As much as you want to direct us to terrestrial refraction, which isn't even refraction, let alone being perspective, that's not in the curve maths. And the justification, if I'm going to have to trim that out as well, this is so far unchallenged when I pointed out that I could trim out people disclaiming quite overtly that Google Earth wasn't their model. But in this instance, if I need to go and trim that out, I don't mind trimming it out where they justify the geometric assertions and their non-requirement of perspective. Now we're told, oh, it's this bit. No, it isn't. Whole meters, feet, values, whatever you're using, don't change with distance and don't scale. That's why Ruhif's now looking like a complete idiot, running a ruler up the side of a mountain when the top of it's further away. It's pathetic, idiotic, and it's their claim. As much as they want to convince their audience it's ours. It's not. Here's ours. Here's Life is Short talking about perspective. Nothing that you've factored into your Mong trig is in that discussion. So no, it's just their claim now, which is great because we can laugh at them for their Mong trig, whilst pointing out that your Mong trig is representing perspective, which we now all agree is real. It's not flurfspective. Yeah, your Mong trig is flurfspective. Perspective is real. It's just not in the curve maths.
Can I do a little exercise similar to the Wayback Machine for the internet?
Sure.
All right. So when I first came onto the scene and was listening to these arguments back and forth from both sides, the flat earthers were saying, look, it's optical, it's visual, it's perspective, it's all this stuff. And then the ballers would always say, no. The earth physically curves, and that's what's blocking the bottom boats of buildings. Now, that was way back. Now, today, No. It's all perspective. No one sees that geometric horizon. Look at the real estate they have to cover.
That's just ridiculous.
Well, while they're arguing about how much perspective we should see, thinking they're burning it as a straw man, it's like, no, you're just accepting and acknowledging that perspective is real while you tried to mock us and call it for perspective. Because the only reason things disappear from bottom up is because of the Earth getting in the way. With the horizon you've now relinquished. Quote, nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve, end quote, Tim Osman. Or Rumpus, quote, the geometric horizon only exists in the maths, end quote. You know, that's what we're told today. So, no, it's not the curve of the Earth getting in the way. What, a boat's going over the refraction? Yeah? So not going over the Earth curve then? Hello? Well, that leaves you with, well, what's your explanation for this stuff? Well, it's optical, not your maths. Maths definitely isn't. A 10-foot building doesn't change its angular size. At a metre, 1,000 metres, 100,000 metres, it doesn't matter what distance you put a value that's in feet or metres. It remains the same. In reality, shit shrinks. Like the mountain they've put a ruler on. Smaller and further away at the top, closer and bigger at the bottom. But they say, oh, well, it's just this feet and metres value. Well, that doesn't work with perspective, and that's how your curve maths works. That's why this is all going so badly wrong. It's disastrous, really, because they're highlighting the deficiencies of the curve maths. It's not got any perspective in it.
So they're treating this mountain as if it were a perfectly shaped building.
Even if it was a perfectly shaped building, you'd have a different angle to it depending on your height in relation and angle to that item. So certain parts of it are always going to scale differently because you've got angles to take into consideration at the top and the bottom, and your angle to it, your relation to it, above or below it. All of these things detailed by life is short, I might add. Complex subject perspective.
So you're saying that, say instead of a mountain, right, that it was one of the World Trade Center buildings. So you're saying that the bottom of it, the top of it is further away than the bottom of it?
Yeah, and you could exaggerate that by standing right next to it. So if you're standing right next to it, what's the distance to the bottom of the building? 2 feet. What's the distance to the top? Is it still 2 feet? Well, no. It depends on your position. So recently, Anthony and Adam, they love the mathematical side of this and laughing at the people who claim they're models and present them. And they actually had one, you know, great. I was like, great, I'll have a look at this, I'll get in, because I've been challenging them to produce one. And Flatzoid and Adam and Sleeping Warrior, they're writing the code, man, looking at what they've done in this model. And they got the camera angled up. I was like, well, that falsifies all of it. No, you're always looking down on a sphere towards the horizon. That's part of their model. So angling the camera up because you're below Blackpool Tower in this model, yeah, that's what you need to do on a flat plane. Angle your camera up, right, because you blow it. Well, that's a bit of a problem if you're always looking down on a sphere, as is claimed in your maths. But that's not how you model it, right? Angling the camera up. Oh, dear. It's just a laugh. We know exactly where to look in these stupid models of a sphere. We've done it all before, right? And we won. They wanted to declare victory at the end. They didn't win. Far from it. But now we can rehash it all, pointing out that we haven't got a geometric horizon. And what's that you say, fundies? This is how perspective works. You clowns, you don't know how perspective works. This Mong trig isn't perspective. What's that? Further to that, it's actually flat Earth. Oh no, this isn't even perspective, let alone being what we claim flat Earth say. No, this is your stupid trig for how you think a flat Earth would work. Well, that's just because you're idiots. Yeah? That's all this is. But nice to know that we're all in agreement that things get smaller into the distance. They don't remain at a feet and inches value. What's that? You're going to keep the feet and inches value and put rulers on everything in this photo to talk about perspective? But the top of the mountain's further. Clowns. It's great. You can tell how happy I am about all this by the amount of video editing I've done. You know, editing's the least fun bit of being a videographer on YouTube. But I've done loads of it because it's like I'm sitting there chuckling as I'm editing these videos. You idiots.
Except when you find those nice little golden nuggets, right? Then you're laughing as you're editing.
Well, I'm laughing at the fact that I've got multitudes of clips where people are telling us how the horizon's not Earth curve, and I'm just laughing along with this. And then they come along and they're like, yeah, well, I had to use a geometric horizon then. No, we don't have that. What are you talking about? It doesn't exist. What do you mean you had to use it? You mean you had to use it to claim that you were proving Earth curve back in the day? Yeah, I know. That's why I'm highlighting it. Thanks, cats.
Well, they're in the deep of, how can I say, world of hurt, let's put it that way. You know, they're always, this is going to be Andrew Thomas Young all over the place here. You know, the geometric horizon and the apparent horizon, as he references both those. Basically, the geometric horizon means the place where the apparent horizon would be if there was no refraction. So because of their view of atmosphere, we're not talking regular refraction here. We're talking about based R refraction, 7/6R. So the atmosphere's got the same bendy shape of their curvy Earth. So with that, they're saying if you take the atmosphere out, oh, then you could see the geometric horizon. There'd only be one. And I said, well, I'm looking out there, there is only one. Oh, no, that's because of 7/6R refraction. Then I say, well, then is that based on R? Yeah. Well, where's R for your measurement to give it the 7/6R? How'd you get the R value? This is where John said what he said earlier, and you've been saying all along.
They get it from the horizon.
What's that?
They get the R value. So you're saying, oh, well, they say you can't see the geometric horizon unless you suck out all the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air that I'm going to assume. Because light bends around the sphere-shaped air that I'm assuming at a rate of the sphere based on the R that we get from the geometric horizon. That we can't see because we're going to refract it with the R value that we got from the geometric horizon to put the horizon in a position that we can no longer measure R from. That's what they're saying. It's absolutely absurd.
And this is why...
I believe it.
Hang on. This is exactly why you can state that all it is a thought experiment, because it's never been seen. And so when we say it's a thought experiment, that's exactly what we're saying, because you want to believe you live on a globe and you got to keep everything matched up with that globe, but there's no proof for it.
Yeah, they're still out there touting it, talking about measuring dip angles to geometric horizons with people who are unacquainted with the black swan argument.
They'll finish that up, that they never see. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're measuring dip angles to a geometric horizon that we never see. We do it all the time. Come on, man.
Yep, that's what they're doing. Maybe it was hoped that the longevity wouldn't be there with Flat Earth, that they could make all of their geometric assertions and then we'd all fade into obscurity and we'd all get forgotten about till the next time. Whereas actually now we're deep into it, pulling apart their geometry, pulling apart their refraction, pulling apart their presupposition of an hour in the first instance, pulling apart their space, and then when it comes to the discussion progressing to the point where they have to acknowledge that perspective's real, rather than mocking it and calling it flirperspective, and they start calculating it, we start pointing out, well, that's the end of your Earth curve maths. That's where it ended in the Isle of Man discussion, as much as you wanted to declare victory based on your assumptions of R, that since 1st Jan 2020 has been debunked, invalidating all of these claims you made. Well, if we'd have just disappeared into obscurity, then we wouldn't be sat here pointing out that the claims they made that they were declaring were proof of Earth curve getting in the way of the Isle of Man are all void. They needed R. Now their comeback is we've refracted the horizon to an R-based geometric value with 7/6R. No, you're not. That's a paradox. You can't do that. You need the R in the first instance to be the geometric horizon to get it. So that's not a comeback. You've just never been demonstrating Earth curve to us, ever. What you've been claiming when you said this island's blocked by Earth curve is this island's blocked by refraction. That's what you actually meant all along. Not proving Earth curve, proving that you've got a geometric value that needs an R for it to be your refraction, but according to you now, refraction blocks islands in the distance, and boats go over refraction. So they're not going over Earth curve then? Oh no, it is Earth curve if I assume I've got a geometric horizon to refract this horizon to a non-geometric position. So boats still going over refraction then, in your claim? This is nonsense. End of Earth curve, basically. And it descends into farce when they try and rebut it. Did you want to present?
Well, that's when through the longevity, you came up with the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. It's marked with an X, labeled horizon, based on the R value. So why don't you tell the audience one more time how they hijack perspective?
It took what is the diffraction limit and turned it into a geometric value. They calculated your optics in terms of what creates a limit to your view, the diffraction limit. Well, in the most basic form with your eyeball, you can calculate that with the Rayleigh criterion. What is it, 1.22 over lambda? I don't know the exact maths, to be perfectly honest, on the top of my head. I'll put it up as a slide when I edit this video. But that calculation has been hijacked and turned into Earth curve. And when it doesn't work out because you've got zoom, changing the distance to the diffraction limit, in this case the horizon, if there was no weather, very rare to actually see that limitation, because normally something else gets in the way first. Atmospheric, as they call it, effects, for them, are 7/6 of a radius value. That's what happens when they talk about light effects in their air, because their air is sphere-shaped. For us, refractive effects have got an endless list of different things that could be accounted for. And when they detail them having looked at them on a flat surface. Because their refraction isn't based on anything other than the radius value that they acquired by looking into how optics work for the human eye. And where you'd achieve a diffraction limit based on ideal circumstances. Obviously, that gets thrown out the window when you've got super zoom cameras. And when you've got a problem because you've got things, what they say, are lifted up beyond the geometric limitation of an Earth curve horizon based on the limitation of your eye that they've hijacked. They'll say Earth curve gets in the way, but the thing behind the Earth curve that I'm proving with this assertion has been lifted up or lowered down based on an amount of a variant of 7/6 of a radius value that I'm assuming and got from a geometric horizon that I'm trying to prove by lifting up the thing in the distance with respect to it. Now, that was Isle of Man discussion and where we ended because there's no perspective in that calculation, as I've said. When they hijack perspective, they've got whole numbers, feet and inches or meters, ascribed to things that get further and further away. So therefore, the feet and inches or meters value for a 100-foot building doesn't change if it's 100 meters away or 1,000 meters away or 10,000 meters away. Click, click.
Yeah, I'm going to send you something that's appropriate, and it's coming to you, Master B. Yeah, it's amazing how they're going back to that. Here it comes.
I don't understand the desperation to try to justify a paradox like they have. I mean, we already measure it flat. Why not just, get over it and move on?
Because the whole of society depends on it being a ball.
Yet they can't.
You got it up, Nathan?
Yeah, I will have. I've got Anthony's comments. I don't know what he's doing, but okay, it's up.
Here we go. Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah.
Just waiting for a segue.
Okay, calculating atmospheric refraction. All the discussion above deals with plane surfaces, but the Earth isn't flat. To deal with refraction in a curved atmosphere, we have to introduce some geometrical considerations, which we have been put on a separate page. So where did they get all their numbers and ideas of refraction? Off of what kind of surface?
Flat surface, but that's part of the bait and switch. So when you say they've got their descriptions of actual refractive effects, none of those relate to 7/6 of a radius. They're just trying to sound educated about refraction so that they can then bait and switch it with terrestrial refraction at a rate of the radius, which would require a geometric horizon that they haven't got. I'll just bring up the Rayleigh criterion as well, just so you can actually see the maths, as I didn't know it off the top of my head.
So my point by sharing this quote from Andrew Thomas Young is as long as you hold the globe model as your reality, then you've got to change everything that's not reality to try to make it fit. And here he is saying, look, every bit of whatever I know about refraction basically was never done on a sphere. It was done on a plane. However, the Earth isn't flat, exclamation point. So now I've got to go and cherry pick, and make this thing bend so that I could prove that I'm on a sphere.
That's not called cherry picking, Tenth. That's called fraud.
Yeah,
That too, yeah. But
Yes,
the whole point
I'd
is
agree.
they'll take aspects of it.
Well, they're just going to lie. They're going to say that, look, how light bends. Let's say, for an example that's been used in the past, through this sugar water that's settled in a fish tank. Well, look at the light. It's bending, right? Yeah? Well, that's because light bends. Therefore, though they don't phrase it that way, light bending is 7/6 of a radius when in sphere-shaped air, the atmosphere. Now, they don't say that bit, but when they present that maths and say, here's the rate of refraction, it just says a word with refraction in it, terrestrial refraction. They just say that's light bending around a sphere at the rate I need and can vary depending on the circumstances. That's refraction. No, it isn't. That's terrestrial refraction, 7/6 of a radius requiring a geometric horizon that they haven't got anymore.
Yeah, and when you're using a sextant or a theodolite, nobody accounts for the horizon being refracted. I don't know where they're
No, they don't. No, they don't. They need it as a baseline.
A baseline? It's Earth curve. Their horizon's
It's
Earth
got-
curve.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the horizon's Earth curve, but you need that zero baseline. You need it to form a 90-degree angle. So good luck with that. Show me
For
an
the-
angle with a curved line, please, somebody.
For the assertions that they make with the sextant, it would have to be a geometric position that's constant.
Yeah, I talked to a guy who actually teaches courses on the sextant. And I said, what about on foggy days where you can't see the same distance on a normal day? You know, his response was, he says, find wherever the water meets the fog, do it there.
Yeah, you're dealing with an optical phenomena, not an Earth curve phenomena. And in order to remove the optics from it, they've kept things that change with optics fixed. The height of a target, 100 feet, 100 meters, that remains fixed. Then they remove all aspects of angular size relationships by putting it in an orthographic view and drawing a single line between target and observer when comparing it to a photo that does not contain the side of your own head, but their orthographic mathematics does, so that they can keep the feet and inches value the same at any distance. So they've taken an optical effect. When people say the horizon rises to eye level, after reviewing some of the Life is Short footage from a few years back, one of the comments that he made was, the reason people say that is because what you perceive as that limit is down to your eye. That is the limit of your eye.
Interesting, on the slide you just put up, it's got that same number, 1.22.
Yeah, the Rayleigh criterion.
Yeah, but the black swan at 1 foot observer height is very similar.
Well, their mathematics is very similar. That's why we called it the perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. And, well, not me, quantum eraser. So we were calling it the perspective omitting, or I was, curve calculator. And then QE came along and went, you do realise that they've actually taken this effect of perspective and just called it Earth curve, and here's how. And the maths is utilising the same numbers. So you're like, okay, that makes perfect sense. What they've described as Earth curve is the effects of perspective. And when they don't pan out, they add or jerry-rig those maths with an assumption, a double the trouble, begging the question fallacy of having an R value in the refractive value to straighten out whatever they need to straighten out.
Nathan, did you make up the angle of attack?
I gave it that title.
What does it mean?
I like foreshortening, raising and lowering your camera to limit your angle against the deck. So the thing that gives you the most limitation to your view would be whatever you're looking over. So if you're looking out 90 degrees above you to the sky, you've got a very wide open angle to see whatever you can see. Whereas against the deck, that limits your angle. So the lower you get to the deck, the more limited it is. And if you try and look at something like a coin on the floor, get lower and lower and lower to the floor, and you see less and less and less of the coin because you're limiting your angle. Well, that effect I labelled just for clickbait worthiness. So it sounds catchy. Angle of attack. When I say it, or when I phrase it that way, I mean your angle of view to the target. Your angle of attack. That's how they use it in aviation terms. Right? Your angle of attack. Well, I'm just using it in a catchy way to get people's attention when describing that effect of raising and lowering your camera. Now, in the angle of attack playlist, you've got people who put a cell phone at one end of a very long, flat, say, shopping centre, and they go to the other end with their phone, and just raise and lower their phone to show that the light disappears. Why? Well, because once you get to the diffraction limit, you can no longer resolve it. The angle is too acute for you to actually resolve what you're seeing. So the light disappears. Now, does that mean everything around it disappears? No. But it would all disappear into what would become that horizon for that viewer in this particular example, a camera's lens as opposed to the eye. Now, with
So
a camera's...
you just put a title
That
on
was
it
actually
because R.C. Meisty was saying
actually
that that's a whole bunch of nonsense that you made up.
Oh, right. Well,
But
it's a
really,
set
you
of
just put a
videos.
title on it.
Just a title. The set of videos has an
Okay.
effect that's being demonstrated by both Globers and Flat Earthers.
right. It's pretty simple to demonstrate. Yeah, very simple way of showing that your angle limits what you can see. But the rebuttal to that was, well, how do you know that the floor is level? How do you know it's flat? I mean, we should have stopped engaging with them then.
What Eli's pointing out is that when I gave an example of a supermarket floor, the response we'd get is, well, that floor's not flat. You're like, where'd you go with that? Doesn't matter
Well,
how...
hold on.
how
On the
precise.
floor part, you could have a floor that's perfectly smooth but not level. I do it myself.
Yeah, I
Now,
appreciate
you
that.
also could have in shopping markets, they usually use self-leveling.
Sure,
So that
but
floor is level.
the effect would take place before reaching the floor, Neil.
Yes. Okay.
So, no. In a nutshell, no. But like
Have you-
Eli's saying, that's their rebuttal. They'll just come up with some excuse whilst denying the effect has even taken place so that they can retain a calculator that doesn't include any of these effects. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, father of a stolen child, Neil, Arwin, 10th Man, and a whole bunch... The Adam Meakin, sorry, nearly missed you, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Hello.
Afternoon.
Hello.
Morning.
Good to have you all. We didn't do housekeeping yesterday because we were so into the midst of the catastrophe that has been brought upon this debate and discussion about the nature of our reality, thanks to conspiracy cats. So hashtag thanks cats. I'm sure we'll discuss it again in this show, but I do want to do housekeeping on this particular show. Plenty of discussion in that regard went into the pre-show, so if you've just listened to all that, you'll understand why I do actually want to do housekeeping today. So any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature.
Blackpool Swan.
Yeah, I was just going to say they have this picture now called the black blue swan. That's the evidence.
We know it's a ball because we measure it flat.
Yeah, the picture is great evidence as long as you don't ask any questions about it. Right, Adam?
Yeah, I think the evidence from that is if you mathematically calculate how many pixels should be there based on the straw man, there appears to be a differential, and your curvature exists in that differential.
And that differential is based in a perspective Mong trig from Globe Earthers when representing the straw man you mentioned, and stating that that's our version of the world, when they use a very rudimentary understanding of trigonometry and claim it's a linear perspective that we definitely have, but does not feature in Earth curve mathematics.
Yeah.
Well, that's a massive problem.
It's just hidden in the numbers. The differential suggests that the only thing it could be is a ball, because the pixels don't match.
So are they throwing Al Biruni under the bus and going with pixels now?
Well, with the pixel, couldn't like depending on how strong your camera is, and depending on how far away the object is, it could have more or less pixels that make it up within that camera.
Yeah, that might be well the case, and they might argue that. However, they're currently telling us all about perspective that is not in Earth curve mathematics. And the reason it's all going skewy and we're all laughing at them is because they're putting a ruler on things like a mountain, where the top of the mountain is far away and the bottom of the mountain is close. So when they say this is a 1,000-foot mountain, do you think they've actually considered the fact that the bottom's closer than the top, and that has an effect when detailing perspective? No, of course not. They're using Mong trig. Obviously, they're trying to set fire to it and say it's ours, but nobody here's claiming that. Meanwhile, they've acknowledged perspective is real, but doesn't feature in their Earth curve maths.
That's a problem.
Massive problem if you're claiming Earth's a sphere and you can compare pictures to this maths that doesn't include perspective that they're telling us all about. Very badly, I might add. What's that you say? No, that's how flat earthers claim it. You find an example of that, fundies. And then we'll laugh and point out that it's actually your idiotic ideas of how the world could work when flat, not ours.
Well, maybe if they look and dig for some 2015 videos, they might find that.
Yeah, they're desperately trying to ignore the black swan, and as a result of that, they've presented a cropped, cherry-picked image that currently is being very insistent on having debated only. So, whereas in the past we were accused of cherry-picking incorrectly, because people don't understand what cherry-picking is, and then when a very literal cherry-picked image with a cropped black swan taken out is being told to people on the flat earth side can only be talked about if it's the cropped one, then you know you've got a problem.
Well, they're saying we're denying that the Earth is flat now. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, when we point out their straw man, they say we're denying the Earth's flat because we're saying no, nobody calculates fuckwit trig that Katz has used to claim a flat Earth. He's done it because he needs to acquire the angle somehow, and he can't do it on a curved surface. So he's done it in a very crude way to make his argument, and then tried to burn it as a straw man. So what? We're denying that the Earth's flat because we don't ascribe fuckwit trig to our claims, where Katz does. Yet what we will do is point out how idiotic Katz's trig is, not take it on as a straw man that we're going to accept, and then accept that if we don't, we're not claiming flat Earth anymore. That's seriously pathetic. But that's what they've got.
Nathan, wouldn't their Earth curve mathematics put the geometric horizon in front of Blackpool?
Yeah, it would.
Well, they got a problem then.
They got a massive problem. It's called the... I'll just remind the fundies on the globe side. Go and get a pen and write this down. It's very important that you understand it. It's only been 18 months. It's called the black swan. You remember that thing you all hand waved? Yeah, that's why I'm pulling Rumpus's pants down and smacking his ass when it comes to perspective. Now, had you have all actually understood the black swan rather than hand-waving it and just saying refraction, demolishing your own geometric claims, I might add, you might appreciate how badly wrong things are going for those of you who hand-waved it in the first instance. Because now we're into a position where you're apparently telling us all about how perspective works in the most pathetic manner that we're laughing at, but simultaneously acknowledging that we do have this effect that you formerly called flurfspective, because it was so silly to use perspective when your calculators didn't. Now we're just back to, so it is okay to use perspective. Apparently linear perspective's okay, according to Rufy. Well, apply it to your curve maths then. Don't just call it flurfspective, because that's what we're going to call Jtrig. Flurfspective. When you think that's how perspective works, yeah, flurfspective strawmen. That's not perspective, idiots. And debunking it won't be debunking a flat earth either. That's called a straw man fallacy. We're not making the argument that Jtrig proves a flat earth. You are, when you need to acquire angles so that you don't have to look at the geometric horizon. We've also been told we're not allowed to debate. Not allowed to debate earth curve? What gives? Crazy days, eh? Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You know,
Nothing.
Nope.
No,
How
there's
do you-
no constant wind happening. It's in one direction. It's actually kind of wind still right now.
Well, they claim that we've got a 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath stuff not attached. It's called Coriolis effect. The not actual deflection of things moving through an inertial reference frame as you turn beneath them on a non-inertial reference frame to give what they claim is a 15 degrees an hour deviation as you watch things in the air drift away from you. That doesn't happen, though.
Well, the 15 degrees an hour has to do with the sun moving, not the Earth.
They claim it's...
Things are conservative.
What are they conserving now?
They're conserving their angular velocity.
What's that
and
measured
angular
in?
momentum.
What's that measured in?
We calculate it in radians.
Where'd you get the radius from?
Oh dear.
The horizon.
And do they consider the atmosphere attached?
Atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. Air takes the shape of a container, not sphere-shaped.
No, I had somebody tell me that air is the
So
container.
it's not attached.
Not attached? What do you mean not attached? Contained. It's not attached. Air doesn't attach. It's not Velcro.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the new thing now. The air is the container.
No, the air's the thing that needs a container.
So I don't need a propane tank anymore?
No, propane's the container.
Well, I said the only way you're going to have an atmosphere is if you get a sphere-shaped container.
Yeah, air will take the shape of a sphere-shaped container. It takes the shape of its container. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
No, that's nonsense.
No, that's why the propane truck comes in with a big container on the back to deliver propane to me in my container. That's why.
I'm pretty sure that truck's made of propane itself, though, isn't it? The truck itself is made of propane, correct?
How
That's
can you test it?
pressurized. That's pressurized air. It's the difference between pressurized air and air pressure. Don't you know that?
How can you prove gas pressure without a container when we're in a container and you would require a container to basically deprive a space of gas pressure in order to try and attempt you can have gas pressure without a container?
You can't have gas pressure without a container.
Right. And you need several containers to prove that.
Does Earth have gas pressure?
Yes.
we are breathing.
Measured.
I'm alive.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
I currently don't think it exists because I don't see anything. just a bunch of daylight getting scattered on the clouds, but all very non-centralized light, just like spreading all over the place, not from a specific location where normally the apparition of the sun would be. So,
Interesting turn of phrase there, Arwin. Day light, the light from the day.
yeah.
Well, I heard flat earthers say that it's local.
What's local?
The sun.
We got the address?
What, in contrast to what?
We got the address. If it's local, I'll pop over.
In contrast to what, Neil?
To 93 million miles away.
Thank you.
Sorry, has it got a postcode or what? Zip code for you
I
Americans?
still think it's wrong to claim that too, that it's local. We don't know that.
Well, in navigation, they need it to be as far and far away as possible so the light comes in parallel. But since the light comes in divergent, I think in that context, light that's closer will diverge. And as you take it far away, because of the distance, this is how the ballers say it's parallel. So in that context, I think is the reference that they're saying. No one knows the address to the sun. That's why the question is solid. There's no evidence for the distance to the sun.
You're late, chocolate.
It's chocolate got a specific purpose being here today. Hey, chocolate.
Morning, guys. Morning.
You're late, chocolate.
It's never late for chocolate, Anthony.
15 minutes past.
That implies that there's some sort of structured timetable, or he has to be here, or he doesn't.
I'm just pointing out he's late for work.
This is not work.
Remember when we used to do that with Curved Water? We used to actually make excuses for why he was late because he was stuck in traffic getting into work because he'd always be on the panel.
Right.
Didn't last too long, did it?
It's just hinting that we think they're paid.
It does kind of feel like a second job, though. Can't lie.
Yeah.
Well, for me, there is a financial motivation and incentive as a YouTuber to do what I do. It doesn't change my passion. But the point is that there wasn't anything similar to parallel that with the people that turn up day after day after day after day after day, year after year after year after year. Well, what's their incentive? Why would they go to the trouble of publishing websites and essentially making no money from it, but dedicating a huge amount of time? Well, time is money, right? If you're going to dedicate your time to it, what's the reward? Just laughing at flat earthers while you deceive people with mathematics that don't pad out currently because there's no perspective in earth curve maths.
Well, the benefit is therapy. It's just calming themselves down by falsely echoing their beliefs. That's the reward. They pay for it because...
I think you're right in the case of people like Conspiracy Cats or Ruhif or maybe even Ranty. Yeah, but that high is short-lived. But I'm not talking about those types of people. I'm talking about Rumpus. I'm talking about Kosho.
I think you might change your view on Conspiracy Cats and Co. once I show you this next bit of evidence. It's pretty interesting.
Let's rattle our way through the housekeeping. Any evidence of, or scientific evidence of gravity?
No, they're even.
What is it?
They're even changing how and what it is. So.
Yeah, 90% of the population think gravity is a force. It isn't.
Are you kidding me?
But if
15 to 20 miles is locally flat because of gravity, the force of gravity.
God, confusing.
That's not a gravity claim.
But seriously, you need to know a substance. You need to know what it is before you can get scientific evidence for it. It's not the other way around. So
sorry to interrupt, Darwin. I heard something new. Was that who was just talking? Was it Neil?
What, about 15 mile locally flat?
No.
Due to the force of gravity?
No. Number one, that's not a gravity claim. Number two, it is claimed that there is 8 inches per mile squared of curvature from any location because it's a sphere that we are claimed to be stood on. So definitely not locally flat caused by gravity. So the bending of a conceptual medium known as pseudo-Riemannian force space by way of the uneven distribution of mass in a reification, you think causes locally flat. What an utter pile of nonsense. Who stated that utter pile of crap? Definitely not locally flat, definitely not an effect of gravity. Who came up with this crap?
I think his name is Ranty. He's a famous flat earther named Ranty.
Someone left me a priceless comment about Ranty. They were like, yeah, he didn't really manage to debunk the sphere when he was a flat earther, but I bet he will now he's a globe head.
Well, next housekeeping question. Come on.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, Danny Faulkner is not a scientist.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Only if you think about it and then draw it as a diagram or an illustration.
The absence of R killed that one.
Encyclopedias.
Okay, that's it. That concludes the housekeeping.
All right, Anthony, what do you got?
Right, screen share, Nathan. Let me get this on. I was hoping that Brian would be in, but we're going to have to do this on the understanding that Brian gets told about this, because obviously he's not in at the minute. Don't know where he is, but he needs to know about this, because it's going to change his whole argument. So yesterday, Brandon put on his show. He said, sorry all, no show tonight. First hour of tomorrow's night show will be Flat Earth only instead of tonight. P.S. The previous message posted by this channel was not Brandon, it was Ranty. How would Ranty post a comment on Brandon's channel if it was genuinely Brandon's? It's a moot question. You don't have to answer it. It's just rhetorical. But in this, Conspiracy Cats puts a comment, and there's a bit back and forth. There's the usual comments. And then as this thread progresses, you'll see Chris Berry. He says, Cats, very Weasley of you to stipulate not talking about the cropped portion in the debate. Honestly, pathetic. Cats, no idea what you're talking about. Anyone can ask anything they want. Don't know where you heard that nonsense. Well, we all know where that nonsense got referenced, don't we? Chris Berry. So Brian can talk about the cropped out part of the photo, ? Conspiracy Cats. How many times do I need to say it? He can ask anything. I am not a flat earther channel. I run fair debates. Where did you get this nonsense from? I have no idea. Chris Berry. From Ranty to Brian. Seems he's trying to make it unfair. And then I said, Cats, you're lying. There is no way that you have not seen his current upload and are fully aware of his demands and stipulations. You must think that we came in on the same boat that Ranty did. And obviously I've liked my own comment because it's glorious. Anyway, it goes on for a bit longer. And then Cats says at the end, where's he put it? There we go. Conspiracy Cats. Brian can ask about the cropped part and Ranty can ask about the non-cropped part. Nobody will be allowed to question Dodge. So I don't know what's going on here, but we're having conflicting answers because Ranty's saying blue and Conspiracy Cats is saying red, and we're all jumping up and down laughing at Ranty's blueness and he's saying redness, and it's like, hang on, what's going on here? Sorry. So it seems that they're trying to deliberately confuse people.
Sorry, so we have a concession that they have indeed cherry-picked this image from Cats himself.
Yeah, I guess so, because he's admitted it's a cropped part.
So, Cats, here we have black and white proof that you cherry-pick your evidence to present to your audience. You're admitting it, you cropped it. So you cropped out the very devastating black swan part. And we can discuss the bit that you removed for your audience, can we? We can discuss the bit that you cherry-picked as well. Well, that's nice. Thank you so much, Cats. We have your permission to discuss the bit you cherry-picked. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
The thing is, obviously, Ranty and Cats appear on face value to be at opposite ends of the spectrum, and there's no way that these guys are at opposite ends of the spectrum. That's so naive to think that that's the case. They're clearly playing games here, aren't they? This is not normal. It's like Nathan saying, I don't know, something, and then Arwin going out and saying completely the opposite. They would jump all over that. So that's ridiculous. So what's going on? Bad
example.
Like...
Very bad.
That's why if I'm Brian, I'm not listening to anything. I'm just driving home all my points on the whole picture. Forget about all these rules.
Yeah, but I'm not pointing out the inconsistencies and the unreliability of the two people that are supposed to be hosting and moderating or whatever.
I can just
there's a new rule. You're not allowed to talk about the rules.
Yeah. I just want to ask Brian, when you say the picture, do you mean the quote cropped picture that Cats was detailing?
It's a joke.
Why was it cropped?
I thought they didn't crop it though.
Sorry, why was it cropped?
Because he didn't want to talk about that bit on the left, Nathan. It kind of debunks their argument.
Well, we know that they cropped out a very devastating black swan, but I'm just saying, why was it cropped at all? Why would that be necessary? Why are you cherry picking your evidence to present to your audience? Why are you censoring out certain parts of the image? It's just coincidental that we're pointing out that the uncropped image is devastating, but we can discuss it after you'd cropped it and presented it to your clown audience that don't know you're deceiving them by cropping things. Nice cropping, though.
I think there's a much more pertinent question. Instead of what about the cropped parts, I think the question really should be who cropped it out.
Who cares? They're all together, Cats and Co, making these claims. Do I care if it was Ruhif or Ranty that actually ran the crop over it? Who cares? It's their claim. And amongst their tribe, they have people that are willing to deceive their audience and cherry pick the evidence. And he's admitting it. Yeah, but you can discuss the uncropped, uncensored part if you want. Oh, well, thanks. And if we hadn't noticed, nobody would mention it, that you cropped it. Yeah, that's the score. These people are deceivers. There's no two ways about it.
How could they even imagine that we wouldn't go and research just even a little bit who this photographer is, Mr. Jackson, find the original and realize that he's selling it, and we would see what they cropped out. I mean,
because they're projectors. They don't do their own research, and they think we're the same way.
Yep, precisely. They didn't look at it. They might have looked at it. We discussed this yesterday, John and I. Well, they might have looked at it and gone, oh, well, that doesn't quite meet our argument standards. We'll just crop that bit out. Not thinking, because they've hand-waved it for 18 solid months, that, oh, well, what if it's a black swan? Do you think we should check? Should we check first? They haven't done any of that. They're just lazy. And we come along and point out that not only have they censored out part of the image, but we are allowed to talk about the, quote, cropped bit, according to Cats. Well, thank you very much. Well, we'll also discuss why it was cropped in the first instance and the bit that was cropped out being devastating. Yeah, we will definitely do that then. Thank you for your permission to go beyond the scope of the bit you cropped out. Thank you so much.
so what's the point of a debate?
So they can lay down their ground rules, and at the end, when their ground rules are fulfilled, they can say we won. Or if they're not, they can cry foul because it was very made clear by Ranty, who apparently isn't on the same page as Cats, that anything's on the table when Ranty's specifically saying don't talk about the geometric horizon. That's Earth curve, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we've got plenty of messages from the opponent on the globe side. I'm putting that in quotes. On the globe side. Ranty. Yeah, he's going to cause chaos.
Well, that's my point. If you
this is a hot mess for them. This is ridiculous.
If you show the whole image, there's no point to this debate. It's a black swan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a black ball swan. That's correct. Why? Well, because the bit that they cropped out makes that more glaringly obvious. Not that you don't or aren't capable of doing it, as you discussed in the pre-show. You know, isn't it supposed to be before the shoreline at Blackpool Tower anyway? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, correct. I mean, you would if you're going to be a glober, you wouldn't pick this picture. I mean, come on.
Guys, what's going on here? Nobody claims the horizon is the curve of the Earth.
Yeah, that's the standpoint now, even though they debated with us about proving that it got in the way of boats, buildings. But now boats and buildings and Isle of Man are blocked by refraction. So we're told.
Everything that we wanted to have them understand when the original Black Swan Miramar Beach picture of the two oil rigs came out, January 2020. They basically went and got a picture, and it's proving what we wanted them to understand, and now it's cropped out, and now they are saying things about perspective they've never said before. So there is somewhat of a victory if you look at it that way, but at the same time, this is why people said, is Ranty setting him up? Because why would anyone use this picture? Because this is just as good as the Miramar Beach one, except over there in the UK, and they have to cut part of it out and then have an argument about it when even the front of the Blackpool shouldn't. I mean, it's just amazing.
I mean, that
I think
would make Ranty an evil genius. So he's decided that because he was disappointed with the outcome of the Blackpool Swan, the Isle of Man discussion, you know, we cried foul because there's no perspective. They said we don't need perspective, it's geometric. And now we're back into a position where he could insert himself into their fold, get them all talking about perspective, so we can, from this side of the fence, go, yeah, wonderful. Yeah, there's no perspective in your Earth curve maths. You told us geometry. Even though we can't see the geometric horizon now, but that's a different point. Oh, no, it's not, is it? It's the same point. Hashtag thanks for that.
I think I can more succinctly detail how the straw man Ranty made with his angular size change orthographic view. What he did is he took the measurements from Google Earth that are measured flat. You get your angular size changes from that orthographic line of sight you can draw. And then he took those sizes, changed them into actual sizes again, and put them in orthographic view again. After it, I don't know. It's pretty clever in a kind of sick way.
Not really. When you draw a line of sight in an orthographic view, it doesn't represent angles. Now, if you're saying he's extracting the data out from that to produce angles to seem like he's dealing with angles, he hasn't actually factored in the fact that there's a diminished angle for things that are further away when you take a single line of sight, and then presumably uses the values that Google Earth tell him the mountains are, as opposed to the angular size measurements. So you could say it's deceptive. I wouldn't say it's clever. I'd say it's Jtrigs, because that's what it is.
Yeah, okay, that's more fair, I guess. It is Jtrigs.
Yeah, so this is how they say the flat Earth works. Oh, really? All right, well, it's only you saying that, guys. Sorry. But that makes it your claim, and makes you complete clowns, and means that we're sat here laughing at you about how idiotic your version of how you think the world should represent itself, because that's not us. Yeah, we'll laugh at that. But simultaneously, the fact that you're doing a pathetic job of trying to detail how perspective works, yeah, means that it's back on the table. It means that we can point out that you don't include it in your maths. Now, so far, it seems that only Ruhif has realised that little problem, and then just pointed Anthony at refraction in the maths and gone, that's perspective, when he had literally told us during the Isle of Man, no, not perspective, not needed, it's geometric. Don't you understand how an orthographic view? Don't you know how to build a building? You don't need perspective in that, you need whole numbers. Oh, really? So don't need perspective, cause geometric. Okay, got it. What's that you say, Ruhif? That refraction value at 7/6 of the radius that's got nothing to do with actual refraction, that's also perspective now? Oh, dear. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that happens when someone like Katz puts the Blackpool Swan on the table. Yeah? Someone like Ruhif suddenly has to tell us that perspective is in the calculator? Oh, no. Do we need to go back and trim out a few people telling us how we don't need perspective, dickheads? Geometry. Yeah? Only to now have the very unfortunate situation where they're telling us all about perspective that they don't have in their maths. Oh dear, oh dear.
That's really gotta suck to have to reach back into the toilet and try to establish an argument that you threw away years ago, made fun of the opposing side for having, and now that's your argument.
And they're really
pretty
pretending.
pathetic.
Yeah, they're really honest to God pretending. Because like every time Nathan says you want us to go and get a clip of you saying the exact opposite, it's almost like they think it's like, a threat, not a promise. Until one day they come into some random server, pretending. And then you put those two side by side and you're like, what's going on there? They have nothing to say. Nothing. It's just
because what could you say? What can you say after that? After years of fighting it, all of a sudden that's your argument.
What you can do is what Rumpus had to do. He came here to defend the clown show trig that Katz has presented as a straw man that we burnt on day one. And as a direct consequence, he had to lie about what he'd formerly claimed was getting in the way of the Isle of Man and tell us that he definitely calculated a refracted horizon back in the day. Now, it might have scrolled by his screen, so we know damn well he's lying about this, but ultimately speaking, he definitely didn't calculate a refracted horizon. Can you mute,
Eli, you gotta
please?
go on
Eli,
mute.
you're causing a load of feedback. Can you mute, please? But he didn't calculate a refracted horizon, and then he told us that he did. He lied. And then I called him on it and smacked his little bottom over it for about 10 straight minutes as he stuttered and stammered around his lie. That's what actually happened. So Ruhif can do the same. He can lie and say, I didn't draw a tangent to Earth curve and claim it was getting in the way of the Isle of Man with geometric values that definitely didn't require Fleur perspective because they were geometric. I actually calculated 7/6 hours perspective. That's what I was actually doing. He can lie. He can do that. Yeah. And just think it's a threat rather than hours and hours of documented footage of them telling us that Fleur perspective isn't necessary because of their geometric values that were only calculable with tangents that they don't have anymore. They can lie about it. That's right. Like Ruhif has that option, yeah. But it didn't end well for Rumpus now, did it? He had to call me a wanker when I said, yeah, go and get me the show number where you calculated a refracted horizon during the Isle of Man. I'll bring it on Monday. Wednesday comes around. He comes in again because of Katz's issues with his Blackpool Swan to defend it, do a bit of greasy lawyering. And what was the net result? Well, the same thing exactly. He had to concede that he wasn't using geometric horizons and they are necessary to do geometry. He had to lie and say he was using a refracted horizon. I tried to tell you. And I only used the geometric horizon because you made me do that. That's what he told us.
Yeah, he said you had to dumb it down for you.
Yeah, he had to dumb down the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. When calculating the refracted targets around a geometric horizon, he used a tangent to claim was Earth curve. That was dumbed down. Really, it was a refracted horizon. He just never mentioned that it wasn't Earth curve blocking the Isle of Man. Refraction was blocking the Isle of Man. Making a mockery of his claim that it proved Earth curve, he had to concede that off the back of Cat's catastrophe. Yeah? But meanwhile, we've got perspective on the table, right? Whose trig are we going to be talking about with these mountains that are further away at the top and closer at the bottom? What's that? You're going to put a straight ruler and count pixels? What about the fact that the top's further away, idiots? What's that you cry? It's flat earth math we're using that nobody's ever claimed. No, it isn't. Day one rebuttal, mate. I know you need to cling to that straw man, but you're now in a boat where you're all going to have to lie. Because you've all made claims that are dedicated to tape. You were claiming to prove Earth curve. You drew tangents and did geometry to claim it. Now Earth curve isn't getting in the way. Refraction's blocking the bottom, right? Because that's obviously what you all claimed back then when you were trying to prove Earth curve was obscure enough for you. Yeah? So about that Earth curve obstruction at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Well, it doesn't exist beyond your mathematics. The Earth's not a sphere. But feel free to lie about linear perspective that isn't in your maths. With the mountain at the top further away than the bottom. Hello? That's your trig, clowns. It's just going to get more embarrassing from here forward. Or more deceptive from their side, because they are going to have to lie about what they've very specifically claimed in the past. When it comes to their relinquishment of a geometric horizon they don't have anymore, and perspective that definitely isn't in their maths. Suck it up, Ruhif, Ranty and Cats. You're causing chaos. Ruhif, you're going to have to lie at some point about what you have and haven't done, just like Rumpus did. And we'll call you liars, because that's what you are on the globe side. You've got to lie. It's not a sphere.
Wait a second. I still see video. You can get videos that they claim that when a boat is going in the distance, it disappears hull first because of Earth curve. So I don't get it.
We don't get it because they're currently telling us that we do not see the geometric horizon that formerly had boats going over it. Now it's a refracted horizon. The horizon we see is based on an R value that was acquired from a horizon that was physical. To refract that physical horizon that gives them their geometry, an ability to draw a tangent, well, they don't want it to be a tangent when they need a tangent. They want it to be a bent line to the horizon, with an R value that was acquired by a tangent and is needed to do the geometry in the first instance. That's what they want. It's nonsense.
It just gets better every day.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing, Globers. You think people ain't paying attention? I got regular, just, I guess I could call them normies, listening to this little escapade of yours. And even they are saying, wow, these guys are, I'm starting to realize these guys are really full of shit. Yeah. And they're normies.
I might as well do
you
a
think
shout
we're
out.
not paying attention to you guys? Please.
Off the back of that chocolate, I'm going to do a little shout out. I'm not going to name anyone specifically, but I've had quite a few emails from people saying, yeah, you're getting a lot of flack at the moment, I know, but it's because you're right over the target. Kudos. And I've had several emails on that subject from people saying, this is ace. You're slaying them, man. This is wicked. Keep it up. I'm really enjoying it.
Yep. People that I've had listening on and off sporadically for a few months now, and now they're talking about this little saga, I guess you want to call it. It's starting to really open their eyes. So keep it up, Globers.
Yeah.
What you're doing is creating more flat earthers. Thanks.
Yeah,
That's what I say. Keep letting them talk.
Keep trying to educate us on your feeble understandings of perspective when it's not included in Earth curve maths. Keep doing that. So we can say, perspective then. Yeah, perspective's real then. Not in your maths, it isn't. Yeah, in your maths, it's only Earth curve that causes things to disappear. Doesn't matter how far they are. The only reason they've gone is because there's a sphere Earth getting in the way. Or it was before the black pool swan demolished the assertion that we were on a sphere. Because if we were, every distance to horizon, that's Earth curve, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's your geometric limitation of a sphere. And the black pool swan annihilates that assertion that we're on a sphere. Of course, our opponents, who are supposed to be in the affirmative position with the consensus behind them, had to crop that out. And I quote, yeah, you can discuss the, quote, cropped bit, says Conspiracy Cats.
It's odd to me that the thing they want to focus on is the part that they say you can't see, they say is hidden, and the part, but they want to focus on the part you can see at the top that's not hidden.
That's correct. Yeah, just to boil that down, because we haven't got the image on screen right now. They want to give us angular sizes for things that are occulted. So you've got Blackpool in front of some mountains, and they want to discuss angular sizes that are impossible to acquire because you can't get the bottom angle. It's obscured by Blackpool. Now, in the very same image, you can see to the bottom of the mountains. Flat Earth. It's a flat Earth proof, even if you don't understand the black swan. You're seeing all the way to the base. But they don't want to talk about that particular part, even though they're claiming sizes of mountains. Now, we point it out, and you have Roofy come along, put rulers up against it, and we say, top of mountain far away, bottom of mountain close. So what he starts doing is asserting positions with a linear scale and a ruler based on pixels, and rubbing out the top of the ruler, so he doesn't fuck up his stupid scale and his Mong trig. Well, we can sit here and point out how inept they are when it comes to an understanding of perspective, because that's not our claim. As I say, we dealt with that in rebuttal in day one. Keep clinging on to it, though. So do the lawyers that come here and have their bum smacked with regards to their claims of Earth curve they don't have anymore. All of those are now void as a result of this. And I could put a big void stamp on Earth curve maths. It's great. Thanks, cats. Yeah, you're right, Chris.
Mong trig.
Chris is right. They don't want to talk about the mountain that you can see, which we could technically in their Hmong trig calculate their pixel values for a linear perspective that doesn't apply to a mountain that's further away at the top. Nevertheless, that's what they're applying and could apply, and as a result, we're pointing out their cherry picking. They have tried to apply badly because it doesn't work. But then when we go, where's this in the maths? The very guy doing it, Ruhif, points at refraction. What's that? Is terrestrial refraction also flurfspective then, Rufy? No.
So you're saying you have to apply Hmong trigs when you're using Muppet vision?
Correct. If you're applying trig to Hmong, you're going to end up with Muppet vision.
Great.
Muppet vision, for the audience's benefit, is an orthographic view. It occasionally pops up on the screen with a man holding a Muppet next to a lighthouse. The lighthouse has got 100 feet, and the distance between it says 1,000. Meaningless. Because in the same way they present it for National Geographic presentations of Earth curve, you've got a man looking at binoculars at a ship, and it's on an Earth that's very much out of scale, and would be the equivalent of about 8,000 miles away, or something absolutely ludicrous. But it's the still same scale, the boat's a bit bigger than him, etc., etc. Well, that's how they do it. The boat's always 100 foot, the mountain's always 1,000 foot, the tower's always 100 meters. That's what they do. So that as you get further and further and further away from it, that value won't change with distance. Yeah, big problem when you've got something like a mountain that's got a varying scale, because they stick a ruler on it and go, well, it's 1,000 feet. Oh, yeah? Well, we're talking about perspective. Stuff that's closer, bigger at the bottom because it's closer, further away, smaller. It's really simple stuff. Can't you even grasp the basics of perspective? Clearly not, because you're in a globe paradigm, yeah, which doesn't have it. So it frazzles their brains when they try and apply these whole numbers to perspective. They've got to jump through all sorts of hoops, just like Ranty. Well, I'm going to take the orthographic view that doesn't show perspective. I'm going to get the measurements from Google Earth, a flat Earth representation, when you draw out the elevation profiles. I'm going to ascribe the mountains with their feet and inches value, and then extract with a single line of sight their angular size. Once I've got that, I'll convert it back into Muppet vision side on to present how much should or shouldn't be seen when you've got the feet and inches values changed based on my conversion to angular size from Muppet vision, and then back into an orthographic representation to show you how the world's actually dropping with perspective that isn't in the curve maths. None of this shit that Ranty's doing is part of curve maths. They've got maths for a sphere already, dickheads. And it doesn't have this perspective you seem to be keen to tell us about. All right, well, tell us away. We'll just point out how inept you are, whilst pointing out it's not in the curve maths. It's been hijacked, and the values don't change with distance, which is why they won't scale when you put your rulers on the bit you cropped out. All very embarrassing.
That's just too Hmong to handle.
Did you call them a new tribe, Cats and Co?
Yeah,
That's
Cats
a
and
law
Co.
firm.
But Chris is right. Back to Chris's point. The bit that they could actually make their claims with and seem coherent, because they're not making a claim about something you can't see because it's occulted. They didn't want that bit in the image. I just think it's beautifully delicious. Why wouldn't you want this in your image? Why would you crop out a bit that's making your claim stronger? Is it because it's a black swan and annihilates the assertion that Earth's a sphere radius 3959? Would that be why you cropped it out? Easier to argue about angular sizes for things you can't see than defend the black swan, right? Probably not. They probably didn't even realise, having hand-waved it for 18 months, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they're more deceptive because they're more intelligent, rather than less deceptive because they're thick.
Well, this proves they didn't understand the black swan because they used another picture that's just like the black swan.
I've been saying that for the longest time. They still don't understand the argument.
It's coming back to bite them. Better learn it quick. That's why Rumpus, the best of the best in terms of obfuscation and deception for the globe, that's why he got his bum smacked and had to concede. Well, yeah, I was using the geometric horizon that we can't see anymore, that we only have in the maths. I was looking at that and measuring it in the Isle of Man. Yes, I was. But that was because it was dumbed down. Oh, right, dumbed down. But Cat's Hmong trig's not dumbed down. That's perfectly representative. You like Jtrig. It's all one word.
Hey, Nathan,
It's just frustrating because, again, that part that's cropped, apparently, Grantee doesn't want Brian to discuss. Well, in my opinion, that's the only part you can discuss because it's the only part you can see the mountain unocculted. So why do you want to discuss the part that you can't see, but say is blocked by Earth curve, but you can't see it? But the part you can see that's not blocked, you don't want to discuss. It makes no sense, and it's
Makes
just very
perfect
telling
sense.
about.
Sorry, the bit that's not blocked by Earth curve. You mean the black swan?
No, the Earth curve's only over there.
Yeah.
Doesn't curve on the
Earth,
other side.
no. They don't want us to talk. That's another stipulation. You're not allowed to talk about the geometric horizon. That's Earth curve. Not allowed to talk about that because in their presentation, when they hold up a straw man to acquire the angles in the first instance to claim the drop without use of an Earth curve edge obstruction, the Earth curve edge obstruction that they would claim is obscured by Blackpool itself. So they're calculating or claiming they can calculate angular sizes. No, they're not. They're getting the whole values from Google Earth, which presents itself as flat. It's a complete catastrophe.
Hey, Brian, are you there?
Yeah, what's going on?
Are you aware that the goalposts have been fundamentally changed for your debate tonight?
Yeah, shout out to Chris Berry.
Oh, right, you're aware. So now you can talk about anything you want.
Yeah, and I will be talking about things, but I really want to talk first and foremost about what Ranty wants to talk about. That is what I want to
I just wanted to make sure that you knew because there's two different stories from different people on their side, so I wasn't sure if you knew or not.
Brian is a constant gentleman.
I like that, Brian. Give them the ball.
He's a
Have I
constant
got to take my
gentleman.
video down?
No, it's been superseded, not refined or adjusted.
Superseded.
It's been superseded.
Been out less than 24 hours. I'll just give him credit. Adam did a lot of work whilst drunk, creating Star Wars. Creating a Star
That's where
Wars.
the best work comes from.
Creating a Star Wars style scrolling introduction that laid out all of the rules that Ranty had laid out. I mean, don't get me wrong, it didn't go on forever and ever and ever, but there was a solid 15 seconds of scrolling up rules about not talking about flat water, not talking about geometric horizons, not talking about St. John's, not talking about this, not talking about that. You just went on and on and on.
I have to say, Nathan, I only had a few comments. One of them was Aaron Armstrong. Wait, you're sober for once, Adam. I had to respond that I totally refute that suggestion. So yeah, even that in the comments. So there is one that goes on from Humans of Earth, which I think is very, very telling of their position. I won't want to read it, but as a little dig at me about how I should be embarrassed and that talking to people at university about flat Earth. I don't. I talk about it quite proudly. I love wrecking their heads. Intellectual people.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's in any position to criticize anybody about being embarrassed about talking about the nonsense that he talks about. He's a prime candidate for being the biggest yodel out there.
Jem Panda's also been put under scrutiny in terms of his assertions about the Isle of Man. He too drew geometric horizons to Earth curve edges that were supposed to be blocking the bottom of the Isle of Man. He was also highly critical of the observation height being used from Google Earth. So it's interesting that we've got a Google Earth height and then another Google Earth height or something completely different from Ranty. So we've got one height from Cats, one height from Ranty, and then the Peanut Gallery have given us a further 2 observation heights. So I'd have thought Jem Panda would have been all over that. 4 observer heights, Jem. You're going to be outraged, right? Like you were with us. Yeah, you're going to get all over that, aren't you, Jem?
That was the reason why he stopped speaking to me. Because of the height on Google Earth didn't match the model, and he had to call me a liar. And I was like, Jem, I only took what it said on Google Earth. I mean, I never measured it, but we did go back and measure it, and it went from 35 to I think it was about 42 or maybe 44. There was bugger all in it. It wasn't worth writing home about. They needed to get about, was it about 200 feet or something like that?
It was, I think they needed it to be at 110, 112, something like that.
Well, it was nowhere near anyway.
No,
It was much ado about nothing, but Jem didn't speak to me since following that.
Yeah, because he was so passionate, so incredibly passionate about getting the observer height right. Yeah, and I'm absolutely certain, given he's absolutely still proactive in this subject, that he's going to be on your case like flies on shit, Cats and Co. Because Gem Panda made it explicitly clear how outrageous it was to use Google Earth's heights. And relinquish Google Earth as a model. He made it explicitly clear that that's not to be used for heights. Yeah? Now, further to that, we've got 4 of them. I'm sure Gem Panda's outraged and will get on to you about this. We won't need to, right? We're not making this claim. But Gem understands implicitly how important this stuff is. He got on at us for about 3 months about it, I believe. Maybe even longer. So, where's that observation height? Have you figured it out yet, you complete clowns?
I was just going to ask, do we have an observer height yet?
No, nor do we have a model. We've shown the elevation profiles, and Ranty criticised the one that Adam made as an example of what they don't have. That's what we got. Yeah, as the one on the bottom that Adam presented is how Google Earth actually presents itself, and you can draw out multitudes of those elevation profiles, all showing Earth flat. The comparison he showed was the thing that they don't have. Day 2, they were challenged to present this. No, they don't, Neil. They don't have anything, other than a lot of flat earthers laughing at them.
This photo.
Is it like bingo? Can we just like shout out different random observer heights? Like 32, 45,
58. Bingo!
Ever since the Black Swan.
Go on, Chris.
Sorry, ever since the Black Swan, it's been comedy because the Black Swan got the ballers to finally admit, after years of saying that horizon was geometric, got them to admit that it's not and that it moves.
No.
This
that's
photo.
Not true. I've not heard a single ball earther admit that. Where have you seen that?
Well, that's the claim. That's the implication. When they refract the horizon, they've moved the horizon. That's the implication.
Yeah, but they don't admit it though. I've not heard anybody admit that.
That's what. Just let me, Chris, I want Chris to get to the end of his point. But when they say refraction, that's what Chris has put a more wordy explanation around. That means they're moving the horizon.
I know, but they don't admit it though.
He said it's what it is. Just let Chris get to the end of his point.
Okay.
Well, Tim Osmond says that the horizon is not Earth curved, so they've admitted it to some degree. But so that was the first Black Swan, the most famous. This photo, this Black Swan, got them to admit there's no horizon at all, which is hilarious.
Don't they need one of those on a globe?
You can't have it on a flat Earth, though.
Of course.
There's no
Every time, and it's always pretty close. So that begs the question then, what did Galileo observe when he claims that he saw a boat rise, dropping behind the edge? What was he observing? A bit of refraction? That'd be a problem, wouldn't it?
Bit of refraction, bit of maths, maybe?
No, they hadn't calculated it then.
What if they had a P900 back then?
I think the word going over.
We probably wouldn't be having this discussion. Sorry, Joe.
I was just going to say the word over is misused there. Going into the horizon would probably be more accurate. Is what we.
No, Galileo claimed that it went over the horizon. That's where it all comes from, Galileo.
Yes, but what John's pointing out though is, I've used that as well, John. So it only I said it takes one word when they're making assertions about the sun in this instance for me. So the sun goes behind, over, yeah. They only need to say one word in this case, over. All right, so it's a physical thing that it's over, behind, and thereafter. Well, that's an assumption of a sphere with a physical sphere edge horizon to go over. Yeah. So then begging the question as soon as they say that word. So when you say, well, how did he have an edge to go over? Well, that's his begging the question fallacy.
That's a magic word, like abracadabra.
Isn't it true that both Galileo and Alberoni had no idea about refraction?
No, they were measuring the geometric horizon that when Rumpus details a dip angle measurement is also assuming a physical sphere edge horizon that's currently been voided by the Blackpool Swan. Hello, is it sinking in?
So that's my point. If
Simon Dan's in
Alberni
the Discord
if
chat.
Alberni and Galileo had no idea of today's Baltard's refraction, then they were obviously saying Earth curve is the horizon.
Yeah, that's the claim in the first instance. What did you say, Chris? What did you put in the chat? Did you say?
No, sorry, I said Simon Dan's in Discord chat. Why doesn't he come into voice chat?
Oh, he couldn't do that. He doesn't
Simon Dan.
Well, we'll figure out what's going on with Simon Dan in the after show. So with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this live, unfortunately, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, or joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream, however, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
32. What's that feet?
Bingo.
40 foot. That's taller than a house. He's on the fucking shoreline.
He says that's something to do with toy. I heard him say something about toids, so he has the toid data. So I don't know why
he's going to assume it's the lowest possible tide.
Yeah, but these are elevations taken off of mean sea level. He doesn't understand surveying, and he doesn't how it works. It's taken off of mean sea level, which is the average sea level. It's not taken off of low or high tide. If that's the case when it's at the highest tide, if he's doing something like that, then that means somebody's at a lower or at a lower elevation. No, there's a particular elevation that everything has based off of mean sea level.
You just make sure you've got screenshots of that Chris Berry saying what he said and the response, because obviously Ranty's going to kick off about it and say no, talk about this, and you can just flick it out like a top trump and go, there you go, there's my star trump.
Well, I have that there if I ever need it. What I'll do is I just debate Ranty on what he wants to debate about. Leave it on what he wants.
I think we're deliberately taking the piss.
Brian will be fine.
Don't worry about it. I'll be fine.
Exactly.
I mean, I can go to that then later on, but I leave him deal with what he wants to deal with first, and we'll deal with that first and foremost. And afterwards, then hopefully we won't even have a need to go there.
So is it still on at 10 o'clock tonight?
As far as I know, it's 10 o'clock yet. It's either 9 or 10. I didn't get it, but I said 10 o'clock Friday, and that was what he agreed with. But he didn't say 10 o'clock. He just said Friday night. So I think it's 10.
Ramp up the pressure.
See, Brian's the man. What he's doing, it's like what I used to do when I used to play Street Fighter back in the day. When you're about to play somebody, you know you're gonna destroy. I would give them the first round for free. Just here you go. Yep. And then I'll destroy them the next 2 rounds.
Yeah, like
Mike
Tyson coming into a fight. Tyson coming into a fight. Just playing around the first 2 seconds, then bang. That shot, and you get knocked out from the same punch 3 times, like Trevor Berbick.
Or the rope-a-dope.
That dude fell 3 times from the same punch.
That's what bull sharks do, man.
Letting himself get wore out on the ropes, trying to defend his own nonsense.
Yep.
John, you were right on cue with that.
Pool cue. So take my daddy's cue and make a living at a playing pool. Hey, listen, don't be surprised if you don't even show up tonight.
I won't be surprised at anything.
Hey, Discord, what's going on over there? Anybody got a geometric horizon? Oh, wait. Fuck.
There's no-
I don't
there's-
have any of those.
It's on sale now.
You're not allowed to talk about that anymore.
Yeah, don't mention Earth Curve. It's part of the rules. You're not allowed to talk about Earth Curve.
Oh man, can we talk about reference frames?
Listen, you can't talk about certain parts of the picture because you can't make them out. Let's get it correct.
Can we talk about obstruction? Obstruction?
The reason why they want to talk about that one is because everything can be measured.
Chocolate putting a little Simon Dan dig there, I notice.
You can only talk about reference frames is if you're going to claim that there's two of them and that flat Earth has them. Then you can talk.
So what? You can destroy them.
And then I can destroy them. Yeah.
I wonder how many of the opposition are actually even. Well, they're not going to be on my side, but how many of them are actually with Ranty? Because I have a feeling with the way things have been going that, like, the reason Katz is allowing things for anything to be spoken about, you know, the reason that's happening is because I'd say he got a bit of backlash maybe from his own people. Could be wrong, just speculation. But I mean, there could be people on his own side saying, what's going on here? You know?
They think they got it.
Which would only mean that they do understand the black swan.
I don't know. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I obviously wasn't inside Kat's brains. I don't know. Maybe Kat's always had no. Maybe Kat's had no intention of ever blocking any subject. But you know, it is. I wonder how many people.
I do think it is. Yeah, it is a curious situation that, you know, they're supposed to be doing this together. So, like, this is their joint argument, right? And one guy saying you can talk about this, you can't talk about that, and then the other guy's like, no, you can talk about whatever you want. That doesn't seem very coherent.
Well, if this is their joint argument, then Ranty's the one stuck in the weeds.
And he's going to get smoked.
Hopefully, once they've put their presentation together, actually figured out the observer height, got a model, and all of those good things, then they can do what we did and go on to someone else's platform that's not on their side. So Anthony and myself and Chris Monk and I can't remember, was there someone else there? I forget. Went on to Steve McRae to pitch the Isle of Man claims that we had made with our observer heights that we figured out after being quite ruthlessly bullied by people like Jem Panda. It was really vicious because he was so determined that this height was established correctly and definitely not using Google. So obviously all of those things will get ironed out, and then we'll invite them to come onto our platform where we'll have a revolving door of people on the flat earth side to absolutely pummel them in the same way we had to endure. Sorry, what was that you say? I never leave my echo chamber, other than when I went on to see the revolving door of fundies to attack us and tell us that we live in a consensus reality over on Steve McRae's channel, as we did. Obviously, that's what we did when we made claims about what globe earthers were saying. Yeah, that's what we did. And we will expect the same. That will be to say, obviously, you'll come here. Yeah?
That's what I'm saying. Why ain't they knocking down the door?
No,
Okay,
they haven't had their formal invitation. Let's make it exactly as it should be. You know, I'm going to say, in the same way as we had the opportunity to go on Steve McRae's channel, an opponent, definitely not neutral, to pitch our model and claims about a sphere Earth. Well, now we're in exactly the reverse situation where we've got fundies on the globe side, Katz and co, making assertions about what flat earthers say. Really? Well, now you're officially invited once you've got your shit together, figured out how fucking high the guy is, and figured out that Jtrigs doesn't work when the mountain at the top's further away and the bottom's closer. Your Jtrigs doesn't cut it. Yeah, we've cleared all those things up, so once you've got your shit together, you'll be invited to present your actual coherent claims to us, your opponents, here. That's what will be done, cats. You'll be offered an opportunity to come here and present your horse shit for us to have a damn good laugh at. Yep. Obviously, you're going to have to figure it all out first. You don't even know how high the guy is at the moment.
Oh, so you're giving them a formal invitation. I'm sorry. I thought at the beginning when anybody could join was an invitation, but I like the formal invitation.
But it's only because it's paralleled. We went onto Steve McRae's channel, an opponent, to present Flat Earth QED based on the Isle of Man, the presentation we did based on all of our studies and research about what the globe claimed. Now, along the journey, we found out how Google wasn't their model and what's going on. What's going on?
Do you remember what happened with that, Nathan? We didn't even get a chance to make the assertion before it was considered as debunked by Steve McRae. We didn't even get to present the evidence.
That's correct. Nevertheless, we went onto our opponent's channel and we presented our claims. Now we have literally an identical situation, parallel, if you like, to that from them, Cats & Co. Well, obviously, it's only reasonable to expect the same, which is why I do this in this formal way. Because people aren't going to sit around telling me I'm sat in my echo chamber when, before they probably even arrived at this subject matter, I was doing the rounds long before I had a debate show. Including, but not limited to, Steve McRae's channel with a revolving door. So one of their stipulations was, 4 against 4, you'll have 4 people, we'll have 4. By the time 25 people had been through that revolving door, we knew that they were lying. When we didn't get an opportunity to actually present our claim in the first instance, we knew it was just a complete sham. Now, obviously, we'll be far more fair here because we are fair here. We do allow people to actually make their claims. I will shut up people on my own side so that they get to be heard in full. That's what will happen here. Not that that will be paralleled because you're scum on the globe side. We like to consider ourselves fairly reasonable, even though we wouldn't say we're neutral. Obviously, we disagree.
Yeah. Well, as we wait for them to fulfill their need for equality, there are people in the server who've been kind of quiet as the conversations rolled on. Samurai, what's his name? Akumu Virus, Nakes.
Yeah, bro.
Couple of well, who's that mod? Danny T. Who else is here? Stranger Danger or whatever you go by these days. I mean, come have a chat, brubs.
I doubt Samurai's going to come because he tapped out twice. I don't think he wants to make a trifecta.
Well, his last tap out has now been juxtaposed with Rumpus, very specifically claiming that the geometric horizon blocked the Isle of Man. That's how he calculated it, with geometry that requires a tangent. That's how you do geometry, as we've been telling people like Samurai for quite some time. Now, when he tells us that no glober has ever claimed that the horizon is Earth curve, and I've got quite an extensive collection of them claiming just that, I'll obviously have his words next to Rumpus's words in the Isle of Man discussion. Embarrassing. But that's the kind of fuckwittery we deal with from those kind of clowns. They think they're so high and mighty when they come to tell us what's what.
I've seen a lot of Japanese samurai movies. I've never seen one tap out.
Well, we got to see one relinquish the very first instance claim of Earth curve by telling us that no globe has ever claimed it. Like I say, I've got plenty of documentation of exactly that.
Oh, you mean Samurai who asked who claims he wanted a citation that the geometric horizon is visible? And then after giving one by me, but from his own side, National Geographic, he's like, nah. I mean, really?
Yeah, get me a citation that someone claims the horizon's Earth curve, other than it being your primary claim for a sphere Earth. Everybody's basically claiming it, you complete muppet, but when you've been defeated, you need to challenge your opponent to cite your claim in the first instance. That's the kind of lunacy we deal with.
Well, Galileo and Alberuni said it. Isn't that we got our?
And in more recent times, Conspiracy Cat. Right?
Yeah, it's an issue if you don't understand the Black Swan and have hand-waved it. It'll come back to bite you in the ass. We didn't labour the point for 18 straight months for it to be a crappy proof that suddenly gets overcome by somebody saying, you know what? If I take perspective off a flat plane and then burn it as a flat earth straw man, I can claim that the angular resolution limit when transposed into feet and inches value shows that there's drop, and I don't even have to show that there's an Earth curve edge. And if I debate anybody, I'll make it a stipulation that we don't discuss geometric horizons because they've been debunked. Yeah, that's the kind of crap we end up with here these days.
What is the only way, if you live, okay, this is begging the question, if you live on a surface that's curved and say it's a sphere and that's what you live on, you're not going to the center to get the measurement. You're going to use a shadow, like Eratosthenes. You're going to go on the mountain like Al-Biruni, and you're going to use the horizon in his case. And the sun casting a shadow over a curved surface. So the only time you're ever going to get your geometric horizon measurement, if we lived on a sphere, is from the surface. And now you're saying you never had it, or no one's done it, or prove it? Well, how'd you get 3959?
And they have claimed it plenty of times.
Right. If they weren't claiming that, how are they using an optical tool to measure something they can't see optically?
Yeah, and when the Earth curve edge is the tangent point, it'll require a straight line to it to do geometry. What's that? Oh, it's bent line to the horizon now. Yeah, you can't do geometry anymore then.
And then once they give us that radius value, 3959, we say, let's reverse engineer that baby and see where Earth curve should start. Uh-oh.
Oh, SpaghettiOs.
Yeah, Earth as a sphere is long dead. And I think the hope was that we'd be long gone by now, having been bullied into submission and then disbanded.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how's that show doing? That show that you went on, you were talking about before. What was that Steve McRae show? How's that doing?
I have a long-term question. Like, it's already very apparent that the entire spherical system is so broken that they have literally no arguments left but to just distract, to make people around them forget that they're actually, supporting a broken model. But the trolls seem to be everlasting. Like, they still go as if it is 5 years ago. So I wonder, like, in 10 years, when everybody's already pretty much gonna be satisfied, like, yeah, that globe, yeah, that's fantasy, and I don't want to know, or it's flat. But are the trolls still gonna do that? Are they like, what are they gonna do when they're 80? Are they still gonna troll the internet trying to shame flat earthers? Like nothing ever happened in 60 years? Because they seem to never change.
That's being a zealot. You're describing zealotry.
Right. But they're so internet trolly zealots.
Yeah.
What I found happens, with them is new ones. And now, obviously, the sock accounts made by people who know better, and then there's people who are in there. Maybe there's trolls being paid to troll. Who knows? But that's kind of speculation. But as far as trolls go, just general trolls, what I find is there's a new wave. Sorry, you say something, Nathan? No. There's a new wave of trolls come in every now and again. And how you know it is they start going back to arguments from 2015 and 2016 that were debunked. Like, how can everyone look south and see the same exact stars at the same exact time? You know what I mean? It's like, no, they can't. That's the bug. 5 and 6 years ago.
I just started telling them, you know, those arguments were debunked like 4 years ago, right? 5.
Yeah, man. Why can't you see the North Pole star in the south? Right?
2021.
Well, don't confuse the ones being paid from the ones that aren't, because you're going to go from Mong trig to Jtrig.
Sorry, I missed that.
From Mong trig to Jtrig. Epic.
Sorry, Nathan?
I just reiterated his joke. His joke was to go from Mong trig, all one word, TM, Nathan Oakley, to Jtrig. Hold on. Does anybody here know what a Jtrig is? Hands up.
I recognise the name, but not remember what.
I forgot what it was.
Okay. Then you're not going to get the joke.
Maybe we could pay them.
Tell us what it is.
Maybe we could pay them and they'll laugh.
Jtrig is an unofficial government body that basically has all the Ds. It's deny, dismiss, deceive, disrupt, discredit. All the Ds, all the traits that they apply is the traits of Jtrig, but it's not meant to officially exist. But
Reader's good.
Did you see? I did that. Just here.
I was about to ask you who did it. If you pay
Who's got the background?
Hot mic.
She did it. We heard it.
Paid Sarita.
It's the first time I.
Neil, I think it's you.
Fuck's sake. Go ahead, Sleeping Warrior. Jtrigs are deceived. Carry on.
Deny, dismiss, deceive, delay. Deny, dismiss, deceive, delay, discredit, discombobulate. All the Ds that you can think of that are negative. They're the traits of Jtrig, and that's exactly what this topic is infiltrated with. But they're not meant to exist. And if you reference it, they laugh at you because they say it's just conspiracy speak. But it is there. It's researchable, and they describe exactly how they behave. And they just say it's conspiracy because they don't like it being existing as a thing. It's brilliant. It's true though.
It's claimed to be in existence, and the behaviour we have exhibited by a certain handful of people, it's not very many, is exactly that description of a Jtrig. Now, does that mean that Jtrigs are real? Well, maybe. Does it mean that those people are Jtrigs? Well, absolutely, we've got no evidence of that whatsoever. It's just a correlation. But it's an interesting one all the same.
When a pun has to go through all this, it's no longer a pun.
No, it's officially been whitewashed.
Yeah, we sucked all the humor out of that one.
Yeah, if there was nothing to be laughing at, it is nothing to be laughing at anymore.
Well, that's because they went from Mong math to Bong math because Ranty's in the weeds.
I don't know.
You didn't get that one either?
I got that one.
Come on, Globies. We say you got jokes on y'all. Y'all not saying not one thing. Not one of you.
Are you saying my pun?
I got that. But...
Hang on. Are you saying my pun's a drag?
Well, that one was kind of a 2 out of 10. To be honest with you.
But maybe Nathan should clip this one out then.
Brian's in serious mode right now. He's got a firm ass kicking to get tonight.
I could throw 5 good puns at you guys today, and none of you get it.
I didn't get the Jtrig one.
You didn't get the bong weed clip. It took you a long time.
I got that. I took you. That was
Before we get into the load of puns. There too. Clip was also in there.
I get the basic ones.
Okay, before we get into the puns, when I was describing, let's carefully phrase this, the current behaviour of normie globeheads, which Cats and Co all are as far as I'm concerned, they don't exhibit Jtrig style behaviour if we're going to assume that that's a real thing, right? But the Jtrigs, if they were real out there, would be very, very annoyed with what's currently transpiring because it's a lot of aggravation.
Yeah. Are you saying you don't want to trigger the Jtrigs?
Well, I'm just saying it would piss me off royally if that was my purpose in life and that was my lot in life. And some of those things were unravelled and exposed as a result of something done by someone on your own side, in quotes.
So when you get J-triggered, you get jiggered?
Like I just said, I think if you were a Jtrig and that was your function in life, someone exposing a lot of failures in models that you're trying to defend and keep subdued or censored wouldn't be something you'd want on your list of to-do things in your daily meeting. You know what I mean? You just wouldn't want that. It would be annoying. Someone's fucking things up from the inside out. You don't need that. Anyway,
I don't think it's something that exists in this arena per se. I just think people, you know, they have a lot of faith in the authority, and if their authority tells them it's a ball, then that's what they believe.
Yeah, I don't dispute that one.
Yeah, they'll take away their own authority.
And what's the
and
basis?
accept somebody else's? I don't
Yes.
get that.
Chocolate, yes. And that's precisely what we were told within the first 3 minutes of being on Steve McRae's show. So the first question posed in that discussion was, are we going to accept a standard of reality based on physics, or are we going to accept a standard of reality that's based on consensus? Now, at that point, I was quite confident about our visit there. And I thought, well, I know the answer to this. Obviously, they're not going to say that reality is based on consensus. That's just absurd. And the answer we got was, yes, here we accept consensus-based reality. And I nearly choked. I couldn't quite believe my ears. That's what they said.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. I mean, at that point, I'm like, well, then we've lost. If it's purely based on consensus, then we've lost. Doesn't matter how much we show you it provable in physical reality. The consensus says it's a sphere, therefore we've lost immediately then. Because it's just, well, we all agree that you're wrong. It's like, oh, okay, that's how it's going to be played. But that's the snake pit we went into. That's why on the live show, I'm like, yeah, formal invitation time. Because if you're going to put yourself in those positions because you're making claims as we were at the time, then that's the acid test, right? Can you sit in front of your opponent and put a good case together? Now, obviously, they're not at that stage now. And while I joke about it and, you know, point out that we've had 4 observer heights, that's paralleled also. So did we. Right, we went and got a proper measurement in the end. Now, will it come to that for them? No, they're lazy. Does it mean I won't highlight it indefinitely? Yeah, of course I will. You know, and I'll use Gem Panda against them. I mean that sincerely too. That's leverage I will not let go of. So Gem Panda, there's my reference. He was the one insisting we got an accurate height and Google wasn't acceptable. He runs a debate show and he's pro-globe. So he better be all over that or I'll be all over him. Why aren't you all over it? Suddenly acceptable to use the standards that you decried and got very upset about. Suddenly, what? Because it's your claim, it's okay? That doesn't seem right. Embarrassing for Gem. Everyone's getting dragged into this shit show.
Well, if you go to consensus-based, you're always going to negate absolute. Because when you look at an army with a general or a captain on a submarine, it would negate leadership if it's the whole crew deciding what to do. So consensus negates leadership in that context. And in the one you're talking about, the absolute truth is going to be whitewashed if it's consensus.
What would Jim have said if you were using someone else's picture without you having the data yourself? Like, you would think that would be upsetting, you know?
Yes, the standards on the globe side are incredibly low, but the standards on our side are incredibly high by virtue of them demanding high standards of us. In other words, we must accept that the dumbed-down version of the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator didn't include the refracted horizon, and we should have known that when debating with them. They had to present the dumbed-down version. We forced them to, was what Rumpus told us. Absurd, but that's what his defence was. So we should know the intricacies of these details that we're defending in their regard as devil's advocate. That's what he's saying. We should have known. Okay, but yet on their side, they can present Jtrigs. And so that's how the flat earthers say it works. Oh no, so we're not going to consider that a dumbed down version then, considering that there's a 5-hour presentation from Life is Short that Ranty sat through. That's the standard reversal. With their standards, I can present Jtrigs and say that's what flat earthers say. But if you're presenting our model, you must understand, without me telling you, that the refraction I claim of Earth curve edge horizon isn't going to be discussed because we need to dumb down when I discuss a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. So you've got to know that. That's only reasonable. That's the standards.
Nathan, you know why the standards are so low on the ball side?
Because they're all idiots.
No, because they grade on the curve.
Boom, boom. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panel for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, or becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
a lovely day!